How do we know?
Okay, we're live. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our #migration event, which will be a talk with Arts of the Working Class. I would like to happily introduce our comrades, Chris and Sebastian. Hello.
Hey.
Hello. So, this is one of our last online events of the #migration festival, and I'm very happy to invite Sebastian and Chris from Arts of the Working Class, because we have been in cooperation with the Arts of the Working Class since our beginning. I would like to give a short introduction of Arts of the Working Class. Arts of the Working Class is a multilingual street journal on poverty and wealth, art, and society. Arts of the Working Class is published every 2 months and contains contributions by artists and thinkers from different fields and in different languages. Its terms are based upon the working class, meaning everyone, and it reports everything that belongs to everyone. Everyone who sells this street journal earns money directly. Vendors keep 100% of the sales. Every artist whose work is advertised designs with us in substance. AWC, which is abbreviation for Arts of the Working Class, is published by Paul Sochacki, María, Inés, Plaza, Lazo, and Alina, Kolar for the streets of the world. We are joined here today with Chris and Sebastian again, who has been working as a part of the team since January, managing the publication and distribution of the paper. So I hope you give a big hand to them in your own rooms. Hello. So would you like to shortly introduce yourselves, Chris and Sebastian?
Yeah, I guess I'll go first. So my name's Chris, and yeah, as you said, I've been working with Arts of the Working Class since January, and helping mainly with coordination, distribution, and but you know, I think we're a quite small team, so we all end up doing a little bit of everything, and it's a very collaborative practice that we have. So yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah. And
yeah. Hey. Oh, did you finish?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Sebastian, and I'm taking care mostly of the, let's say, online aspect of the newspaper that is also getting more and more, I would say, important for us. So I'm not super involved in the distribution as Chris is, but I'm taking care of the website and some social media and stuff like this. But also, yeah, everyone does a bit of everything in the end.
That's great.
Turns out.
That really sounds like the spirit of Arts of the Working Class. Everyone is doing something for everyone. So before we move on to the talk, I wanted to shortly elaborate the reason why #migration festival wanted to cooperate with Arts of the Working Class. Personally, I'm a big fan of Arts of the Working Class, and the first reason was because it's written in different languages. So if you see on the edition, there's different languages, and you have a different non-German, non-English version cover page as well. So I really like the fact that Arts of the Working Class has its articles in different languages, and they try to engage with different people in different aspects and different fields. And that was one of the biggest reasons we really wanted to cooperate with you. And also the most biggest reason was because Arts of the Working Class is working very hard and doing successfully in order to build up the community, which was the biggest aim for the #migration festival as well. So I'm very happy that we are having a cooperation till now, and I hope we can give positive energy to each other. So I would like to start with the questions. Today it's very special. I know it's 12 p.m., which is not an easy time to chip in for the YouTube live, but don't worry, you can also watch it up when it's uploaded. And if you want, you can also add your questions in the chat room. But we have collected questions before, so I will ask some questions and Chris will pick up some questions from the box and we'll put them in the piggy bank. So everyone who sent us the questions before are all engaged in today's talk. So my first question will be, can you further elaborate on the working class? How do you utilize this to highlight the difference in significant privileges between migrants and expats?
Yeah, this is a really nice question, and I think it comes up a lot with Alina and Maria and Paul, and people are coming to us all the time asking us about what do we mean by arts of the working class. And you know, the whole point of this paper is that it's a platform where people can discuss things that belong to everyone, as you said. And so working class in this sense is understood as kind of a repositioning of this term, where we can be self-reflexive in the paper and kind of negotiate how these terminologies affect us, and not just in society and politically, but also in the arts. So we're looking at the precarious conditions of art workers, focusing on discourses of contemporary social dynamics that are happening in different continents and different languages, as you said. And so we're working with this Marxist core idea of the working class, but we also understand that the term is no longer fixed, that it's something that, along with our workplaces and working conditions, are constantly shifting. And so we need to be reflexive, and that these terminologies are not fixed, but they're up for negotiation. And so, yeah, our goal is to kind of question and challenge this. And yeah, I don't know. Is there something else you would say, Sebastian, to this?
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And also think that we could say that we want to use this term in a more expansive way, right? As in like a shift in category, because obviously there are some areas of life where this term would not be used that often, maybe the cultural sphere or the art worlds, right? But we want to kind of like emphasize that it is indeed also part of this cultural sphere in a very prominent way in the end, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that we're questioning ideas not only of a class and what delineates different classes, but also we're looking at ideas and challenging ideas of what work is. And so how can we complicate this? And so through these different perspectives of the different contributors that we have, the different associate editors, and all these different languages, we can kind of get a broader picture of what these ideas could mean from different contexts, perspectives, and experiences.
Thank you very much. It's very impressive that you're sticking to the term working class, and you're trying to expand what it really means and try to fit to the speed or the changes of what working class can mean, because it changes all the time as the world changed since the term working class evolved. And it's very impressive that you're throwing a question of what work is. I can relate this to Korea. Because the situation for young people, young generation all over the world is becoming harder and harder. And in Korea, it's also similar. And there's a new word term called a person with N jobs. N means you can put 2, 3, 10, 100, because you can't live only with one job. And you have to sustain your life with numerous jobs, which is the reality for many of the young generation in Korea. And especially during the Corona pandemic, it has become even harsher for these people to survive. So I think the term of work is changing a lot in our generation, because in the older generation, maybe they will stick to one job for their whole life, but now we are expanding the meaning of what work is. So this was very impressive. Thank you very much. So now we go to the fun part. I would like to invite Chris to pull out maybe 2 questions from the box.
Okay, yeah. So the first one. How can you further elaborate on the working class? How do you utilize this to highlight the difference in significant privileges between migrants and expats? Should I start? Do you want to start with this one, or? Sebastian?
Yeah, what was the, sorry, I was cut off for a second. The differences between migrants and expats.
How do we utilize the term, the working class, to highlight the difference in significant privileges between migrants and expats?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess this difference is super context specific, so I don't have a definite answer to this, but I would say that, you know, this difference is unfortunately very racialized as well, and of course also class-based as well, because we don't just call everyone an expat, right? There's some sort of a social dynamic that pertains to this concept that is not just neutral. So yeah, Chris, do you want to say something?
No, I think this is super relevant, right? Like that not everyone is an expat or a migrant. It's very coded, right? In a lot of ways.
Yeah, coded, that's a good word.
And so I think, how does AWC utilize this term to complicate these ideas? I think one way that we're doing this is through this kind of multilingual publishing practice, for sure, that we are publishing in all of these different languages to give, like I said, these different perspectives from different continents, different, in different languages. And I think also that we understand that these terms are quite complicated. So we're trying to mix this up by doing this multilingual publishing. And yeah, how else could we think about? I think this is, I don't know. This is like a nice answer here, that, and also that we're, really exploring this, this broken terrain of work and trying to see how can we pick apart these experiences to understand them better. These different experiences of migrants or expats, or is this terminology something that's even useful, right?
Yes, thank you very much for your nice answers. As a reader, I appreciated very much that Arts of the Working Class is trying to erase the language barrier by providing a multilingual newspaper to people. Because for me, when I first came to Germany, and still I'm not fluent in German, and whenever I want to read the newspaper, it's a big barrier for me because German is too difficult to read and understand. So it was very nice to read the English articles in the Arts of the Working Class. And once when I contributed to translate one article into Korean, some of my Korean friends told me they were super happy to read an article in Korean language in Germany, in Berlin. So I guess this is a big empowerment for many people who would come by reading the article itself. And about the term migration, I do think we still need to try to expand the meaning and make it to reflect on the meaning as well. And as our festival #migration shows, we don't use migration, we use migration, because we believe migration is something that their own narratives should be passed down to by themselves. So I see why we were a nice cooperation partner. And Chris, would you mind pulling out the next question?
So can you elaborate more on how AWC disrupts and mediates conversations between the art world, the streets, poverty, society, wealth, etc.? Yeah. I think one interesting way that we're doing this is through our modes of distribution, that this paper isn't something that is only available in like art stores, right? This is something, the large majority of our distribution is directly to the streets, right? And so we have 3 different pickup spots in Berlin, and we're distributing also in London, Los Angeles, New York, and in all these different cities. It varies from issue to issue. And we make this available to people on the streets who want to sell it, and they keep 100% of the money that they make from this. They receive it for free, keep the money. And so I think this is a really interesting way that we're kind of disrupting this idea of public publishing and distribution. Our funding comes only from advertising, and a lot of the advertisements that we get are also from like big art institutions. So in a way, this is a way, by giving these out for free and then letting people, you know, sell this on the street if they need to or want to, then this is our kind of gesture to suggest or to redistribute art world wealth, and also to engage people on the streets with these sort of discourses of poverty and wealth and the discrepancies that you see surrounding these in the art world.
Yeah, I think it's basically just to make it less exclusive and less centered on the institutionalized art world, right? In a very pragmatic and practical way, not just via content, but also, as Chris said, via modes of distribution themselves.
Yeah, so I want to have a follow-up question. Where can we get the papers in Berlin?
That's a good question. In Berlin, you can get it at one of the pickup spots. That's our office here in Wedding, where I am. There's also a pickup spot at Akudmak Neu. And these are mainly for street vendors. We also sell it at a lot of bookstores. So we sell at ProQM, and you can also buy it through our distributor at Vice Versa Art Books. Maybe
and since a week, you can also subscribe.
Yeah, and you can also subscribe so you can get it at home.
From the website, right?
Yeah.
If you go our website, at the very top, there is...
We'll say, yeah.
So you click here.
You click, yeah, this one you can click on, and then it's going to take you to different options, different packages.
Ooh, there's even different options.
Yeah, this is relatively new, so.
And I really love the bags. It's a perfect Christmas present.
And so there's different options for different shipping zones. But basically, if you have the option to buy a basic subscription, this covers the cost of the paper and the shipping. So this would be 5 issues from 2020 or the upcoming 5 issues from 2021. And for the, I think we have like 50 or so packages where we have these collaboration bags with Berlin Art Week and Fluktoplasma Festival in Hamburg. So we're giving these out to people that choose to support us with more money. So there's also options for this. And this subscription campaign is really meant to keep the paper on the streets. Yeah, exactly.
That's nice, thank you. And also I've heard that you will expand your distribution to Korea.
It's maybe too early to say, but we're always looking for different opportunities to distribute with different biennales or different art fairs or cooperations partners all over the world. We've done distribution in Los Angeles with the Goethe Institute. We've done distribution in London with a team that we have there. So yeah, always open to different ideas, and just figuring out the logistics of it is a pain in the ass, to be honest, but it's yeah, something that we're always open to do.
So very nice. So anyone who's watching this YouTube and who is going to watch it later, then if they're interested, please contact Arts of the Working Class if you want to distribute this wonderful paper into your own country and region. I think they will be happy for it. And I would like to ask the next question. So yeah, Hashtag Migration Festival was supposed to have a 2-day event festival offline in March, but as every single person in this whole world are affected to this pandemic, we were also affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So we were not able to have an offline festival because we wanted to be safe and responsible. And therefore we switched to the online festival, which works quite well. I think this is another alternative for us to bind to each other. And I wanted to ask you both how this affected you. So in the current pandemic, how are you ensuring that AWC can still reach a wider audience, provide financial gain for the homeless who are selling on the streets, and make an impact?
Yeah, as I said before, this subscription campaign that we're doing is really meant to keep the paper on the streets. Like everyone we've really struggled with the pandemic. All of our funding comes from advertising, as I said, and all of this advertising comes from museums and galleries and institutions like this that are involved in the arts in some way. And of course, with the lockdowns, then all of these institutions are closed, meaning that they're not really looking for advertisement anymore. So we've definitely struggled with this. We switched as soon as the first lockdown hit, we went like insane into overdrive, and we were publishing every day online, like really trying to push this online platform, which was it was super intense, you know? And so now we're really trying to find ways to keep the paper on the streets. And so the subscription service is a good way that people can receive the papers to their homes, especially in places where they don't have access to it on the streets, like in Berlin. So if you're in a different city, then the subscription campaign is a good way to ensure that we have the funding that we need basically to put the majority, 90% of our papers out onto the streets so that people can sell these. And so it's a very different distribution model from most publications, but it's one that we think does a good job of bringing these conversations to the streets.
Yeah, it's difficult to navigate this when the paper itself is so based on circulating on the streets in a very physical way, right? It's this online aspect is relatively new, right? The first 2 years I don't think we even had a website. So this is also still evolving, the online part. We're also always trying new things out and trying to see what works, what doesn't work. We're adding new features, new topics, new formats all the time. So it's still very experimental, I would say.
I'm looking forward how you will go through this very long and harsh journey, and the Migration Festival will always be with you. And yes, everyone, please subscribe, donate to Arts of the Working Class, because it's not only for the team, but it's for everyone who's on this.
The subscription, the link to our website and the subscriptions, and maybe we can post it in the comments for people to follow, because it supports us a lot to have these subscriptions going. So
yeah, thank you. It sounds like Arts of the Working Class has a very close and organic relationship with people on the streets, and also with many artists and individuals who want to show their great art and narratives, but don't have enough resources to make it realized. So I find it very important that we should support Arts of the Working Class. So Chris, can you pull out one more question?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. What's the process behind sourcing all your seriously talented and critical contributors? Yeah. So the papers published by María, Inés, Paul, and Paul Sochacki and Alina Kolar. María, Inés, Plaza, Lazo, full name. And
Alina is joining us. Speaking of.
Yeah. Cool. I guess, yeah. So yeah. Hi, Alina.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Hi, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
All good.
We were just talking about how we source all of our, so Alina's one of the contributors, or not contributors, sorry, one of the publishers, founders of the paper. So for everyone that's watching. And yeah, we were just talking about how we source all of these contributors and artists to the paper. Would you like to talk about it, or?
I'm sorry, where did you leave things? Did you already say anything?
We haven't answered yet. No.
It's question out of the box, and we haven't answered the question yet. But if you're jumping in,
yeah. So I guess yeah. Hello, everyone. We sort of, I think, in the frame of the migration festival and like the whole thematic around it, I think it might be very interesting to see how we started this. we really thought of including voices that usually aren't heard. So in the very beginning, it was always linked to an exhibition. So it kind of like functioned as a catalog that was not just merely produced for an exhibition and as a sort of like representation as such, but was something that could translate or bring an exhibition to public space or outside on the streets. And in order to do so, and in order to sort of like break the idea of a very fixed boundary between a gallery space and a visitor who would come in and potentially understand one or another thing, or not even come in, we decided to break all these kinds of established structures and publish something that is in different languages, coming from different viewpoints, etc. So in the very beginning, it was really artists who contributed mainly, and who we were sort of like seeking out for more than they were coming to us, because it took a while to establish the paper itself. At this point, there are many people who actually come to us with pitches, with their ideas. We always say it's an open and inclusive platform, so we try to really take every single pitch into account that comes in. So if anybody who's listening has ever wondered if they should pitch something or not, please always do. We really try and look at all of them and think through how something can be displayed or can be part of a conversation or discussion. I think, yeah, I'm not entirely sure what else to say here. Definitely what's absolutely important, especially also for Pavel and Maria, Inés, is that we really try and bring in voices from many different countries and different sort of fields, and to have as many perspectives on something that works towards a decolonial cultural representation.
Thank you, Alina. And I would like to introduce Alina to everyone. Hello, Alina, and thank you for joining today. It was very nice to listen to your answer. Decolonization is very important, and I'm very happy that you are trying to do it by through the Arts of the Working Class platform. So anyone who's interested in pitching their artwork or their articles, please send their work to Arts of the Working Class. So this next question is linked to the answers you gave. What are some ways that we can practice solidarity with the values of AWC? I can imagine that the two ways of showing solidarity can be subscribing and donating to Arts of the Working Class, buying the nice bags for their family and friends for Christmas all over the world. And are there any other ways that we can show solidarity with you?
I think getting involved really, and sending us your pitches and ideas. Also finding ways that we can distribute this paper in different cities. I think we're super open to different collaborative opportunities with people from all over. And I think also in a different respect that we also kind of practice the solidarity by as Alina said, we're publishing in all of these languages all over the world. And I think I said this before, but yeah, I think this is a nice practice of solidarity, that we're able to have these discussions about art and labor and our contemporary moment in these different languages, because it's not always possible to do this in our native language, right? And so we try to give different authors these kind of opportunities to publish in their native language, but it's kind of funny sometimes, because sometimes we'll ask somebody, hey, do you want to publish this article in Korean or in Farsi or whatever? And sometimes the authors will say like, no, actually, I don't think people are going to access it in the same way. So this is part of this kind of ongoing negotiation that we're trying to have with our authors, but also with our readers. And kind of disrupt the standard of English language in these conversations.
Yes, thank you very much for your answer. And also something interesting I heard from visiting your office, Maria said her friend also sold the papers and it was challenging, but was possible to earn some money from it. So I think I find it very nice from Arts of the Working Class that the vendors have no conditions attached. Anyone can come and pick up the papers and sell them on the streets, and you don't need to be in a certain situation. So maybe if anyone wants to show solidarity, can't they also pick up some papers and sell them on the streets to distribute?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, we also talk closely with some of the vendors who are regulars at the office, for example. And of course, we don't keep track of what they're selling or for how much, but we hear a lot of very different stories from the vendors. Some vendors say, yeah, it's really challenging. And some say, yeah, somebody, thought that the paper was so great. And then they thought that it was really cool that I was selling it. And then they give me, $50 for it or something. And so the stories vary a lot, but of course we don't have a way to really keep track of this. So yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I would like to show more solidarity with the paper. So the next question will be how hashtag migration believes that stories told can raise more awareness of migration complexities and issues, and that storytelling will empower migrant communities, hopefully leading to more understanding and inclusivity within diversity. Was one of your favorite self-told narratives you've published? I think everyone can pick their own favorite one.
Yeah, I guess I could start with this article that I wrote based on an experience I had at a workshop with this photographer, Akambore Akambie. He's a British Nigerian photographer, and we did this workshop with him where we walked through vetting in the Afrikanisches Viertel. This is like the African district of Berlin, so-called. And we were exploring this neighborhood to look for kind of the colonial relics of this neighborhood and to see the ways in which all of these kind of relics of our of Germany's colonial past are embedded in the city that we live in. So, the article kind of starts with this very personal work narrative of this workshop, and then goes into these kind of deconstructing how our cities are designed and kind of the cultures that we choose to uphold with things like street names, which is a huge discussion right now, or what kind of monuments we choose to keep in place. Like in the States, it's a huge discussion with these Confederate monuments. And so, I don't know, there's a lot of really surprising things that came out of it. Like Edeka, this grocery store chain, the name is actually coming from this, Einkaufsgenossenschaft Deutsche Kolonialwaren or something like this. It's like the buying cooperative of German colonial wares, right? And so this is this grocery store that exists all over, and then it has these really colonial roots. So yeah, I don't know, this is maybe my personal, story that relates to some of these topics quite well. I don't know.
Thank you, Chris. I agree that was a great read as well. I think my recent favorite was an interview that I did with Inke Arns, who is the director of Hardware Media and Kunstverein in Dortmund. And she was super generous with her answers and covered so many grounds in this interview, which was really surprising. But I guess what was quite topical also in regards to our upcoming issue is that in Dortmund, they're currently setting up an exhibition, a show about the Roma architecture. So she was kind of like emphasizing the link between political self-representation and political, let's say, marginalization and the cultural institution, right? So how can marginalized communities that are part of this local surroundings of the art institutions be somehow engaged with, and how can they be listened to? How can they work together when setting up? How can we work together with them when setting up an exhibition? And how curating can be some sort of a responsibility towards them. How can curating be responsible and ethical? So this was I thought very topical and and very important as well.
Thank you. Alina, do you have also one you want to share?
Yeah, I think actually, and this is really funny because I go back to this over and over again, because somehow it is a basis or like a fundamental point of the paper to me still, which sort of like was my text in the very first issue, that as like a personal narrative. I was at the time sort of an art advisor in London, and was coming from a completely different perspective, because that was like, I was of course sort of trying to situate myself in like a sphere and realm that that wasn't actually native to me at all. But I found sort of exile within the language. So I kind of was looking at the idea how art and art production was valued in the marketplace, and then how it was valued outside of that. And I made the claim that if we are imaginative enough, we can see art on the street without the need for its production. And I still think that helped me a lot through actually coming towards the arts, because I was not educated in that sense. Like no one has ever sort of like when I was a child, no one brought me to a museum or whatever, but it was really just the understanding of the world in a more maybe fantasy or imaginative way. And that's kind of what brought me to describe, I guess, or talk about that maybe personal narrative in a more contained way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. These three perspectives and narratives were very interesting. And I do know that the paper contains even more interesting and critical stories in many languages. So I hope everyone can try to read it, because it's very interesting. Thank you for sharing your stories. Now I would like to break down to a bit more personal questions. So the first one is hashtag migration is an interdisciplinary storytelling project that amplifies self-told narrative through art. This ranges from visual art, comics, literature, film, music, food, and more. If you were to tell your own migration narrative, what art form have you or would you adopt, and why? And if you are doing something at the moment, please share it with us too.
Yeah, I'll start. So I've been working a lot with food with a collective that I have been doing for about a year now, but because of Corona, we haven't been able to kind of do so much, but it's really, we're doing like thematic pop-up dinners that are revolving around some sort of concept or idea. And I think food as a practice is really, it's super exciting. And I think in terms of, in the relation to migration, it also has a lot of kind of cultural weight behind it that people can bring, you know, from wherever they're from their native culture, but also that it's constantly transforming and moving with us in very intimate and dynamic ways. So I think for me, there's so much potential in food as an art practice in the way that we experience communality, in the way that we can, yeah, really be and eat together. yeah, also the conditions of food's production, the origins of it. I mean, there's so much to be said. And I really am super excited by art practices that are dealing with these kind of questions. And so this is kind of also what I'm focusing on personally. Yeah.
You also cook food for people?
Yeah. So not now because of Corona, but we're working on some different kind of ideas that we could implement even during a lockdown. But normally we do pop-up dinners that are at my friend's apartment, or we do it at we're talking about doing different pop-ups with I don't know, gallery spaces or cafes where we can invite people to experience these creations with us.
That's nice. Thank you for sharing. Sebastian and Alina, do you have anything you want to share?
Yeah, maybe my answer is a bit more vague, but I think that anytime we speak of migration in relation to culture or to artwork, I would think less of a specific medium, but I would think more of how these two categories need to be connected in a way. What I want to say is that migration always is forced into person is forced into becoming very resourceful, right? Kind of like assembling bits and pieces from everyday life. And maybe for me, this is the most important aspect that that we can, think of. I'm not sure about the medium or the yeah.
I very much agree with Sebastian because I never thought that I would become an editor, and something that this paper definitely allows for is a platform that tries to welcome everyone. And I think that in and of itself is, like, to me, the nicest way of rethinking mediums, right? And rethinking the idea of what art is and can be. And that is linked to, what I just said earlier about, like, maybe it's something on the street, or it's how you set the table, right? For some people, it's not only even the food, it's how you set the table, how you write a text message. And all of these things, I think, are incredibly important and should be valued much more, and not only necessarily by society, but at least for ourselves.
Thank you. I totally agree. And it sounds like every single cell of yourself can turn into a self-told narrative and can link to storytelling, because your presence itself is telling something. And I really like that food. I do agree that food can relate a lot to individuals. Our teammate, Vicky, she's also having a food project. She has a food project, and the title is Rice is Life, which really hit my heart when I first heard it. Because I'm from Korea, I thought, yeah, rice is life. I can't eat the whole time. I can't eat the whole time bread. So rice is really my life. And I think this can be a nice medium to bring up the community all together. But as Sebastian and Alina said, sometimes it can be very vague and it can be just who you are. And that's what I really liked about the Migration Festival. Sorry about self-promoting, but I really like the fact that I can be myself instead of explaining who I am and explaining my existence with fancy words. And I do think Arts of the Working Class has the same values. So I appreciate it very highly. My last but not least question for everyone. How can you personally relate to AWS and #migration?
Yeah, so So yeah, I think really the link between migration and arts of the working class is that we're trying to provide this open platform for everyone, right? That we can be super inclusive and try to give people space to negotiate and discuss these the things that are relevant to everyone, right? That we can discuss ideas of commons and kind of forms of being together that are super important, that we can have these discussions. And yeah. I think this is, for me also, like with this it's like food art practice is like another way of kind of coming together and talking about how, and really negotiating how we can exist in the same spaces. And, I think also in the context of cities, this is super fascinating. And as these kind of really diverse, eclectic spaces. So conversations that need to happen.
Thank you. So for you, mainly AWC and also hashtag migration, such as today's event, will be a platform for you to communicate.
Yeah, not just for us, but for other people to engage in this conversation. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thank you. And Sebastian and Alina, do you also have something to share?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, every contributor that we have such a, let's say, a diverse roster of contributors. So it's, you know, most of the people come from migrant backgrounds. So it's kind of like not normalizing this, but it's really showing how the grounds, certain grounds that we take for granted are not, you know, natural at all. Everyone, you know, most of the contributions are somehow, yeah, they really mess up the idea of one single stable background, cultural or ethnical or whatever have you. So maybe that's one of the yeah, contributions that we can also make.
Yeah, I think if I just were to add something very briefly, I think that the art world itself is a place that is, because it's so specific and because it is sort of like a little bit of a mirror of society in and of itself, it definitely shows how what globalization has done, how different kinds of people come together, but then also are fragmented, and that not only shows in the way we speak or think about classes, or but actually also literally through aesthetics or language, right? And by really trying to give space to different kinds of each and every one of them being one kind of, you know, like your own narrative, your story, you as a person, is, I think, quite important in order to understand a community. And if we try to understand Arts of the Working Class as a community, the Migration Festival tries to open up personal perspectives to a community that already is one, basically, but that somehow, I don't know, can be, because it doesn't, like it's not always looked at from exactly this perspective of where you come from or what you do. Often it's that's even a discussion we don't really have, right? Or that people don't really want to enable because they want to fit in, or like there are so many obstacles in society that don't allow for this discussion to happen. I think this is how both projects, if we were to call it that, relate. And I think giving that a space already opens up not only the community to itself, but then also to others.
Thank you so much for your brilliant and powerful contributions, Chris, Sebastian, and Alina. I do agree, and I'm very happy that to see these wonderful projects going on, because it gives me hope and power that the world is not so shitty as I thought, and we can have hope for the future, because I find that both projects are trying to deal with the surroundings that we have in our life, and these different powers that are trying to disrupt our peaceful and justful life, and that we are all trying to step forward toward equality and justice in our own ways. And I am very happy to see these projects going on, and I hope we can be sustainable even though we are trying to go against capitalism and globalization and everything. So I'm very thankful for your contributions today. Before we finish, I would like to stress the fact that everyone who's watching this talk should subscribe and follow the Instagram of Arts of the Working Class. They post wonderful posts every time. And also please visit the website, and you can happily donate or ask for a subscription of these wonderful papers. Thank you very much, Chris, Sebastian, Alina, and the Piggy Bank for helping us out today and contributing very powerful and necessary insights. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.